What's going on, good people? Welcome back to another episode of Trading My Live Account. Today is day number 71. It's September the 20th, 2023. We made some trades today, so let's get into it. First and foremost, let's talk about yesterday's closing price. Very important today. That level was 34,820. Now, we passed over that level in the pre-market, and we pretty much haven't seen that level since. So it wouldn't play too much of a factor at all today. So let's go ahead and get into the trades and talk about this lead up activity that eventually led to the FOMC statement today at 2 o'clock. So when the market opened at 9:30, let's bring everything up. So when we opened at 9:30, we saw that we initially had a pretty strong bounce to the upside that pretty much defied this entire downtrend that got started right before the market opened. We pretty much reversed the majority of that, came back to a major level of what used to be support but is now resistance, and we came back to that level after we made a higher low. So once I saw the higher low, I said, okay, I'm pretty sure that more than likely the higher low strategy should be pretty successful right here. So that's what led me to trade number one. Now at one, if we read the notes, it says I went long here as prices retested the previous higher low support level. Now sometimes the market hits break even and then it moves on without you, and that's something that you just got to accept if you're going to want to actually use a break even trailing stop, because I can tell you from experience that my break even stop has prevented me from making a lot of foolish and silly decisions a lot of times, and it's protecting me so much that I just keep using it because I like having that protection. But at the same time, you got to realize it's a push and pull with everything, so it's a trade. So in order for you to receive that protection from the break even, sometimes you got to accept the fact that the market is going to come back, hit your break even stop, and then continue moving on to your profit target, and then probably continue moving on a lot further. And that's one of the things that you just got to deal with and accept if you want to use that break even stop. So I think I did a good job of just accepting what the market gave me. I was like, okay, it came back to break even. If I can get another setup that looks good, I'll get in. But I never got that. So I did a good job of not chasing the market, being disciplined enough to say, okay, that was my entry. I took it. It worked out. I just didn't happen to be in the trade. So to me, I look at that as a good decision, and I want to try and carry that momentum forward into the next trade. And I think a lot of times in the past, I would have made revenge trades and tried to get back at the market and try and make up the profits that I feel like the market took from me. But, I feel like I'm turning the corner mentally when it comes to my trading, and I feel like I'm just being a lot more mature and just not going for the simple emotional pulls that the market likes to play with you a little bit on. So I think I did a good job of just being disciplined throughout that entire period between trade one and trade two, because I didn't see my setup really form too much until we got to trade two, and that's actually what led me to going long right here. So I went long right here based on the same idea that I had from trade one. I saw a higher low get formed. I saw prices come back, retest the support level of the higher low, and then I look to go long. But if we read the notes right here, let's check this out. It says it's a good idea, but remember that higher lows and mature uptrends have a lower chance of success. And that's one of the lessons I learned last month, because I was going long at the highs of an uptrend because we made a higher low, and I kept wondering, why does the higher low keep getting ran through? And a lot of the times when you're at the top levels or the upper levels of an uptrend, you want to be a little bit more cautious when you see that higher low setup, because you got to remember that there are people coming in to take profits right here, and everybody might not be looking at that higher low the same way that you're looking at it. So I'm looking at it from a perspective of entry. They're looking at it from a perspective of exit, and they're saying if prices break anywhere below this higher low, we're getting out and taking profits. So think about anybody that was long from point one down here all the way up to this high right here. All of these people, if they wanted to go long, or if they were long already, if they were going to take profits, when would they do it? They would do it when the market characteristics change. So if we look at this candle right here, this technically represented a lower high, because prices sold off, tried to push back up. They were green at one point during this candle right here, but they were unable to close that way. So that right there represents a lower high. So a common thing in the market when you're changing characteristics from an uptrend to a downtrend, whether it's a reversal or a pullback, is for prices to come back and retest the first lower high. And if they can never break past that first lower high, that's telling you that even though there is buying still in the market, the sellers are in control at that point in time. So I think that's the main point that I was missing when I was trading this entire junction right here. I saw that this was a lower high, but I didn't think that it would be that significant, but it actually turned out to be so. So it's always important to remember, you don't want to go long when the uptrend is too mature, especially if you see that lower high starting to form. So that's the biggest thing I learned right there on trade 2. So after that trade got stopped out, we see prices come back down, create a higher low on a previous level of support that we formed a little bit earlier. So that's a very bullish signal. That tells us that the buyers are still in the market. So we want to see what they can do after that first higher low. So they push up, create a second higher low, and then move all the way back up to the same lower high that we were talking about a little bit earlier. But notice how once they got back up to that level again, they kind of stalled out. Now that stall out kind of led me to trade number 3, because before prices stalled out when they got back up to that lower high from previous, they did make a higher low. So all I did was wait for prices to come back, retest that level of support, and then I went long right here. The only thing was, if we read the notes, it says this was a good idea, but I have to hold my best trades. And that's so important right here, because on this trade, I got in at 68 and I got out. I closed the trade manually at 64, which was 4 points away. And if that's not the definition of not giving your trade a chance to breathe, then I don't know what is, because my normal stop is about 14 points. So prices would have never come anywhere close to my stop if I would have held the trade. So I had most of the formula right. I had a good entry and I had a good exit based on where I wanted to get out. But the only thing was, you got to be able to hold that trade and believe in your setups. This right here is my setup. It's the higher low setup that I trade all the time. The same setup that I traded on 1 and 2. So when it comes to my best trades, no matter how I feel, I just got to be willing to accept the risk that comes with it. Is every trade from your favorite setup gonna be successful? No, but it's a high probability of it being that way. So that means you got to be able to sit through it no matter what the market throws at you, and just say, look, I believe in my trade. I took a good entry and I'm holding it. If I take a loss, I'm willing to accept it. And that's the biggest thing. You got to be willing to accept those losses. On trade 3, I just didn't want to accept the possible risk that came with operating in the market. And that's something I got to work on, you know. And I think that also comes back to a mindset thing, because after trade 2 and trade 1, I ain't gonna lie, I was a little bit frustrated. Like, man, I feel like I'm taking good entries but not getting rewarded for it. So then on trade 3, I was just like, I don't want to take a third loss in a row, so let me just get out. But that's not the mindset to have. You gotta believe in your best setups, because you practice, you study, and you train for a reason. You study and train so hard so that when you get into the actual live session, when you see your setups, you can take them, you won't hesitate, and you'll be able to make that bread. So that's the most important thing. Believe in your trades and everything should work out. Accept the risk that comes with operating in the market. So after trade 3, we see prices come back up, retest that level one more time, but then they pulled back and kind of found support down here where we finally created a higher low. I actually don't even have that one marked up, so let's go ahead and do that right now. So this is a higher low. We see prices come back, eventually retest that level, and then they push back up, tried to get to this point up here where we created the high for the day, but couldn't quite get there yet. It was off by a couple of points. But then we pulled back, created a higher low. Now, well, actually, we had a higher low right here, this little small micro candle. And I actually wanted to talk about that real quick too, because sometimes you're not going to get a higher low that's just a big obvious sign on the chart where you can clearly mark it up. Sometimes that higher low will be one little candle like this where you pull down for a minute and then the trend continues. So my first thought was to say, that's not really a higher low. But I drew it up anyway, lined it up, and then as prices came back into that level, I went long because I was just like, hey, that's my setup. We're in an uptrend. I have to take it. So that's pretty much what led me to going long at trade 4. Just saw prices come back to retest the support level of the higher low. And if you look at this trade and you read the notes, let's look at what it says. Break even again right here. And sometimes It's just like that. And that was, the biggest thing that I had to deal with today was the fact that I took some really good trades, but I made profit on none of them. And sometimes in the market, that's just how it goes. But I think on days like this, it's important to stay focused and to remember why you took the trades and study what went wrong on these entries. Because if we look at trades 1 through 4, the only trade that was really just a bad entry was trade number 2, because I went long towards the mature phases of a uptrend, as well as towards the first lower high that never really got broken back through. So 2 was really the only trade that wasn't really what I should be doing. But 1, 3, and 4, all of those were great trades. But for reasons that I completely controlled, those trades weren't able to make money. So it's like, okay, you could look at it 2 ways. You could say, I didn't make money, I took losses today, and I'm not happy about it. But if you have that mindset, I know for me, that will probably lead to me coming back into the session tomorrow, trying to overcompensate, trying to make back what I felt like I should have made today. But I've been learning over time that it's better to take the other route when it comes to the mindset and how you want to view taking losses like this. So I would much rather view it in the perspective where I say, look, I waited for all of my best setups. I had plenty of opportunity to take a whole lot of trades here that did not line up with my trading plan, but I was disciplined enough to say, nah, I'll pass on that opportunity. Nah, I'm gonna pass on that one too, and the next one, until I see what I like. So I sat back and I waited for my best setups. I took those. They would have worked if my break even wasn't there, but that's something that I have to work with. So, sometimes you just got to accept the days where you take all of your best setups, but you still end up with losses. It could confuse you, and you could come away from it thinking that you're not that good of a trader. But if you took the best entries and for whatever reason you just didn't make money off of it, you got to accept that. And I think today I was able to be very disciplined. I think in the past, like, you could go back and look at some of my old trade reviews where I had days like this, exactly like this, where I felt like the market took something from me, took profit that I should have had. And then I came back into the market and had revenge and had spite and made trades that I know I shouldn't have, and got back on the trade review later that day and said, oh man, I can't believe I did that. I know I shouldn't have did it, but I did it anyway. I think I'm moving past those stages because I just realized that it's not worth it. Today is September 20th. Today is not going to be the last day ever that the stock market is open. The Dow Jones is going to be open tomorrow and on Friday, and then back again on Monday, then back again next week, the week after that, the month after that, and the year after that. So it's no real rush to get back what you feel like the market took away from you. Your setups will come in due time. So it's all about just being patient enough to wait for those opportunities and not putting a hole in your boat because they said that you can't go sailing today or you can't get on the water today. So you say, well, if I can't go, nobody can. You put a hole in the boat. It's like, why would you do that? You can go back on the lake next week or maybe tomorrow, but now you don't have a boat because you put a hole in it and then it sunk. So I think I did a good job today of just keeping the boat afloat and making sure that I don't dig myself into any unnecessary holes. And even though today was a loss, I feel really good because I think I'm turning the page in terms of maturity, discipline, patience, and I think all of those things really make a difference in me being a great trader. So I know what I need to work on in my back testing session tonight. I just need to work on just taking perfect entries, because these entries were good, but they weren't perfect. They could have been a little bit better, and I think that would have prevented me from at least taking a break even on trades 1 and 4. On 3, I probably would have still got out of that trade. That's something I got to work on too, but I think that one was just unavoidable. But 1 and 4 can definitely be cleaned up. So that's what I'll be working on tonight. I was going to come back and trade when the FOMC news came out today, but they raised the margins by a factor of 4. And I was like, oh, well, I can't afford to trade with y'all today, but I'll be back tomorrow though. Just some extra motivation. So one thing about it that I can leave you guys with, a good nugget, is that the day after the FOMC announcement is always extremely volatile because you have a whole plethora of people coming into the market to make moves. based on whatever analysis they did that previous night after everybody had time to digest what actually happened and what the Fed actually wants to do. Everybody had a chance to think about that, so they come back tomorrow ready to make all types of positions and make all types of trades. So tomorrow is definitely going to be a day full of opportunity. So I want to make sure that I come into tomorrow with the same mindset that I had today, which is being patient, disciplined, and only taking the setups that I know and the setups that I study. So that's pretty much all I got for you guys today. I hope you learned a lot about using a break even stop and some of the pros and cons that come with that. And I also hope you learned a lot about not chasing the market when you don't have things go your way. And also, finally, I hope you learned a lot about being able to take losses but not put a hole in your boat, and be able to make sure you keep your boat afloat so that you can come back the next day and still trade. That's so important. So that's all I got right now. I'll be back tomorrow on September 21st at 9:30 a.m. But until then, you guys, study hard and take it easy.